Yeah, so we put x to the third on top. Why is it an x to the third on top? Yeah, so x to the third times x gives you x to the fourth. And then what do you do before that? Yeah, so x to the third times negative 2 is negative 2x to the third. Okay, and then what do we do? What do I do now? You guys ready?
Yeah, I was writing it while she got her word count.
Uh-huh. And then what do I do? Draw the line, change the signs. And when I do that, what do I get for these two? X to the fourth minus x to the fourth, 0. What do I get when I have 4x cubed plus 2x cubed, 6x cubed, and then what do I do? All right. All right, so what do I do next? Somebody other than Anya and Kaylee. Don't worry, guys, I'm really good at awkward silences. Don't tell me. So I have an x, I have a 6x cubed. What do I put on the top? 6x squared. You got your paper in front of you? There you go. Headphones out. Perfect. All right, 6x squared on the top. Then what do we do? Okay, so 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. And then what else? So we're going to minus 12x squared. And then we draw the line, change the signs. So these zero out like they should. Negative 22 and positive 12 gives us negative 10. Now what do we do? Drop down the 11x. Okay. So someone other than Zoe now. No Zoe, no Anya, no Kaylee. Sorry. What do we do now? Negative 10x. So we have an x. We need it to be negative 10x squared. So we're going to put a negative 10x at the top. So now we're multiplying. Negative 10x times x is negative 10x squared plus 20x, okay? So draw the line, change that to a plus, change that to a minus. All right, no more Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. All right, somebody else. Yeah, David. Yeah, so that zeroes out, negative 9x. Okay. Then what do we do? Yep, so x times what is negative 9x? We get a negative 9 on the top. Somebody other than David. Okay, so we get negative 9x and positive 18. Okay. And then what do we do? So draw the line, change the signs. Yeah, we got 0 there, and then we have a remainder of negative 1. And then what do I do with that remainder of negative 1? Yeah, I have to bring it up here, so I say minus, because that was a negative. And then I've got 1 over x minus 2. Okay. So for number 1, your work should be perfect. Is your work perfect for number 1? Perfect? Perfect? Got it? All right. How are we doing in general? Was that better for those of us who forgot over the weekend? Maybe, yes. Okay, go ahead and work on number 2. Yes. Yes. All right, let's do number 4 together because number 4 is weird. So if you look at number 4, it says n minus 6, and we're dividing it and we're missing some exponents. So I have n to the 4th minus 6n to the 3rd, and I'm missing an exponent of 2. So plus 0n squared, I'm missing an exponent of 1, so 0n, and then what do I put on the end? Then the minus 4. Okay. So how do I start the problem for number 4? So I say n times what is n to the 4th, and it would be n to the 3rd. And then I say n to the 3rd times n, Dylan. Okay, and n to the 3rd times negative 6. Negative 6 n to the 3rd. Okay. And I draw my line, and I change my signs, and that's when things get weird. Okay. Yeah, so this is 0, this is 0. I drop down the next term, that is 0. I drop down the next term, that is also 0. So I ignore, I'm just ignoring them. So what this means, anytime we have stuff zeroing out like that, it just means we get to skip the middle steps. Anytime it zeroes out, you don't have to work with it, you just skip it, okay? And then I drop down the last one, which was negative 4. Does the negative 4 have a variable with it? No, so we're at the end. That's the remainder. All right, so now I'm going to take this up. I'm going to write it as my remainder, and I put minus, and then what do I put? 4 over n minus 6. That's it. Done. Yeah. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to number 1, and we're going to do number 1 using synthetic division. Okay? We're going to do number 1 using synthetic division. All right, so go back to number 1 on your paper. Now, the video notes said that if you have x minus 2 in your parentheses, what do you put in the box? Positive 2. So for number 1, I'm going to put positive 2 in the box. Okay? And then what do I do with all of these according to your notes? Say it again. Before that, what do I write on my paper? So look at your synthetic division notes. Yeah, the coefficient, right? The number in the front you write down. So x to the 4th has a 1 in front. 4x to the 3rd has a 4 in front. Negative 22x squared has a negative 22 in the front. 11x has an 11 in the front. And then 17. What does that arrow mean? I'm going to drop it down. What does this mean? That's my remainder over there. Okay. So I've got the opposite sign of what was in the parentheses in my box. And then I've got all the coefficients written down, right? Okay, so I drop down the 1, and then what do I do with this number down here? I multiply it. 1 times 2 is 2. And then what do I do with the 4 and the 2? I don't subtract, I add them. So 4 plus 2, 6. And then what do I do with the 6? So 6 times 2 is 12. Negative 22 plus 12, negative 10. Then I do negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. And I say 11 minus 20 is negative 9. And then I say negative 9 times 2 negative 18. And 17 plus negative 18 is negative 1. Okay? And if the original problem started off with an x to the 4th, then this one is going to be an x to the 3rd. And that one's going to be an x to the 2nd. And that one's going to be an x to the 1st, or just an x. You don't really have to have the 1. And then no x, and then the last one is our remainder. And so now I can go ahead and write out my answer. I have x to the 3rd plus 6x squared minus 10x minus 9 minus 1 over x minus 2. Does that match the first answer you got? Yes. Okay, so that means we did it right. Do you guys remember the other way you can check to see if your answer is right? Yeah, so you go back to the original problem and you say the opposite sign of this is 2. So I'm going to take the original problem, I'm going to plug in 2. And what should happen when we plug in 2? We get the remainder. Okay, so if I plug in positive 2, I should get a remainder of negative 1, and I did, and that's some confirmation that I got it right. Okay, now I did the exact same problem, but I did it a different way, and so now I have even more confirmation that I did it right. Why did I not teach you this method on Friday? I said it in the video. Why did I teach you a hard way if there was an easy way? It doesn't always work. The easy way does not always work. It only works when you're dividing by something that looks like this. X minus 2, x plus 7, x minus 5, x minus 3. As soon as I put a number in the front, 2x plus 1 doesn't work anymore. Okay? If I put x squared minus 2, doesn't work anymore. So the reason we do long division is because long division works every single time. The reason that I teach you synthetic division is because if you do have a simple one, this one will keep you from being upset all the time, right? Because it's a little bit easier. All right. Do we need to do another one using synthetic division? No? Okay, so go ahead, do 2, 3, and 4 using synthetic division. The answer that you get should confirm the answers you already got. They shouldn't be different. They should be the same because we're doing the exact same thing. We're just using a different method. Okay, so 2, 3, and 4, you're doing synthetic division to check your answers. So you're adding this back to your notes. We're talking about synthetic division. All right. So if I wanted to find the factors of 24, what are they? Factors of 24. So 2 times 12, 4 times 6, 3 times 8, 1 times 24. So I would say the factors of 24 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Would I say 5 was a factor of 24? No. Why would I say that 5 is not a factor of 24? It doesn't go unevenly, right? Okay, so if I did 24 divided by 5, yeah, how many times does 5 go into 24? 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Remainder of 4. So I would say that it's 4 and 4/5. So what determines that 5 is not a factor of 24? It has a remainder. Does that make sense? 5 is not a factor of 24 because it has a remainder. Okay, I want you to write that sentence. 5 is not a factor of 24 because it has a remainder. Okay, so we're going to look at number 5 in our packet, so that's on the back of the first page. And we're going to do the first problem, but we're going to do it in our notes, okay? So this is number 5 from the packet, but we're going to do the problem in our notes, all right? So the problem says, use synthetic division to do x to the third minus 10x minus 24 divided by x minus 3. So if I'm doing synthetic division on that problem, and I'm doing it in my notes, I'm taking it from the packet, I'm doing it in my notes. If I do synthetic division on this problem, how do I set it up? I have to choose a number that goes in the little box, 3. And then what numbers do I write next? Do I go straight from 1 to negative 10? Yeah, so I have an x to the third, and then I have an x, and I skip the x squared, which means that right here I have to think about having a 0x squared because I skipped it. So I've got 1, then 0, then negative 10, then negative 24. And so what do I do now? Bring down the 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 0 plus 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 10 plus 9. Negative 1 times 3. Negative 3 plus negative 24. Okay, so the problem had an x to the third, so what does my answer have? X to the second, x, no x, and then remainder. So I say this is x to the second plus 3x minus 1 minus 27 over x minus 3. And then for question number 6, it says, using your work in number 5, determine if x minus 3 was a factor of the original problem. It would not be because it has a remainder. Does that make sense? So we would say, looking at this right here, looking at that remainder of negative 27, x minus 3 is not a factor of x to the third minus 10x minus 24 because the remainder is not 0. If you have a remainder of 0, you can say it's a factor because there's nothing left over. But if you have a remainder of anything else, you would say, nope, that's not a factor. It didn't go in evenly. There was a negative 27 left over. Okay? So when you're doing that page, you just have to do the synthetic division and then check the remainder. If the remainder is 0, it's a factor. If the remainder is not 0, it is not a factor. So when they're asking if it's a factor, it's not a tough question if you can remember the remainder part. As long as you remember that, you're fine. Okay? All right, go ahead and keep working on that page. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes, and then we're going to move on to the next page, which is that maze. Okay? A couple minutes. All right, on your notes, we're going to write remainder theorem. On your notes, we're going to write remainder theorem. And all the calculators have to be put away. Sorry, not sorry. Bye, calculators. Put them away. Bye. They go in your bag. They go back. No more calculators for the rest of the period. Sorry, not sorry. Bye, calculators. Bye. Okay, so for the remainder theorem, we're going to write down the function f of x equals x to the fourth minus 8x to the third plus 15x squared minus 3x. And what I want you to do is I want you to evaluate this function for 3. So I want you to plug 3 in and tell me the answer you get. No calculators, ready, go. Sorry, not sorry. Plug in 3, ready, go. No calculators. To the right? Yeah, I'm asking where you want me to move it, because I'm not going to get up, I'm going to ask them to move it. To the right. Can you guys move your light to the right a little bit? Thanks, David. Is that better? Wait, move it back. Not all the way back, just look like. Is that better? Good enough? Is it better if I put this down here? Here we go. Okay.
It's like the light itself.
We could turn it off. Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better for you, Diana? All right. Okay, plug in 3. But you have to, it's your job. Plug in 3. Anyone know what 3 to the second is? 9. Okay, so we can do that part. And make sure you remember your order of operations. Because if you do like 15 times 3, then you're already done. You already got the answer wrong. So we know 3 to the second is 9. We know what 3 times 3 is. We know that's 9. Anyone know what 3 to the third is? Anyone know what 3 to the fourth is? 81. Okay. Okay. Wasn't as bad as we thought. Okay. Okay. Anyone remember how to multiply 2-digit numbers times a 1-digit number by hand? So we'll have to do like 27 times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. I used to have a really hard time with that one. So put the 6 down, bring the 5 up. 8, yeah, what do we do? We add the 5 and 2, we get 7 times 8 again. Does 27 times 8 make sense if you're saying 556? No, that answer is like way too big. Look at this. Look at this, guys. I have a marker, but it erases. So 8 times 2, well, it kind of erases. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 5 is... Whew. All right, so we have 81 minus 216 plus something minus 9. 5 times 9. 4. 9 times 1 plus 4, 135. That's good.
I'm not adding all these.
Ugh.
I'm not doing that. I already had to do a lot.
Miss Rice, is there an easier way? Why, yes. Yes, there is. It's using the remainder theorem. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, no, sir, I'm done with that way. And we're going to set up a synthetic division problem. I know. Why, Miss Rice? Because it entertains me, because it's funny, and it makes you realize why we care about the remainder theorem. Okay, so the number that I want to plug in, I put in the box. And then I take the numbers from this just like normal, but if you notice, there's something missing on the end. The plain number that has no variable, there's nothing on the end, so we're going to put a plus 0 on the end. Okay, now we can go ahead and we can write all these coefficients down. So what should I be writing? 1, negative 8, 15, negative 3, 0. Okay. Okay. So let's do synthetic division. We have the 1. We drop the 1 down. Then what do I do? 1 times 3 is 3. Negative 8 plus 3. Okay. Negative 5 times 3. 0. 0 times 3. Still negative 3. And then 0 plus negative 9. Negative 9. Okay, let's plug this in using my calculator because you don't have yours anymore. And we'll see what the answer is, and then we'll see what the remainder theorem tells us. So I've got 3 to the 4th minus 8 times 3 to the 3rd plus 15 times 3 to the 2nd minus 3 times 3. The answer is negative 9. So what do you think the remainder theorem tells us? The remainder is the answer. So if you want to take a complicated function and evaluate it for a number, and you don't have a calculator because your teacher is mean and made you put them all away, Christian, then, see what I did there? See what I did there because your calculator's hanging out? See what I did there? Then the remainder is the answer. That's how you do it. Okay, so let's grab the maze sheets. And we're going to use the remainder theorem because we're not allowed to use our calculators for the rest of the class period. Because our teacher's evil. Sorry, she's just evil, and that's just how it is today. All right, so the remainder theorem. I do not have to do the opposite sign because this is not written as a factor inside parentheses. They're telling me exactly what to plug in, so I don't do the opposite sign. It says 6, so I'm going to use 6. And then our function is negative 4x to the 3rd plus 29x squared minus 28x minus 8. Did they skip anything? No, so that means we can just use it as it is. Okay, so I drop down the negative 4. Negative 4 times 6. Negative 24. That's 5. 5 times 6, 30. Negative 28 plus 30, 2. 2 times 6, 12. Negative 8 plus 12 is 4. So if I plug in 6, I get 4. And that means that when I start my maze, I'm going this way. Now, unless you are very good at writing tiny, like Dylan is great at writing tiny, Nick P is very good at writing tiny, Nick H not so much. So if you are not a tiny writer, then you need to do this work on a separate sheet of paper, and you need to turn that paper in with the assignment. If you are a tiny writer, then you can write on the paper. Ms. Rice, why do I have to do that? Because I don't believe you that you're not plugging it into a calculator when I'm not watching. Okay, because any normal student would just do that. Okay, all right, let's try the next problem. So this one says plug in 2. And we've got 4x squared minus 6x minus 1. Did they skip anything? No, so we can just use 4, negative 6, negative 1. All right, so we drop down the 4, and then what do we do? 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 6 plus 8 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. And so what's the answer? 3. All right. It doesn't like you either. Negative 4. All right, did they skip anything? We got a 1, a 9, a 26. So 1 times negative 4, 9 minus 4, 5. 5 times negative 4, 26 minus 20, 6. So the remainder is 6. Here's our answer. So when I look at your piece of paper that is going along with the assignment, this is what I should see on your paper. Okay? All right. You have 6 minutes left. This assignment needs to be completely finished for homework. What is the next part of homework? I think I'm just going to have you guys finish this for homework, and whatever notes we have, we'll do tomorrow in class. Okay. Okay. Marvelous.